1:15. Thank you for joining us. This week, NATO military exercises, well, they came to a conclusion. The muscle-flexing tour across Europe. Soldiers and armoured vehicles on the ground, planes and choppers in the sky. People in 6 countries witnessing the forces rumble on through. Was it war? Peter Oliver reports on the mixed reception.
The column of armoured vehicles just behind me is the US military's Operation Dragoon Ride, crossing the Czech border, heading back into Germany, back to their base in Bavaria after over a week on the road. The US had used the near 2,000-kilometre journey from manoeuvres in the Baltic states as a show of strength and Washington's commitment to the NATO presence in Eastern Europe, and of course to show off the Striker armoured personnel carrier.
This is the Striker.
Aside from showing their NATO allies that they're with them, the United States Army has been using the operation to try and win the hearts and minds of the local people. But not everyone gave them such a warm welcome. Hundreds gathered in Prague, angry at the US military presence in Europe.
You killed all my neighborhoods!
On Wednesday, peace activists braved stormy conditions waiting outside the American Army base the convoy was returning to.
We might be small in numbers here, but we represent many all over Germany who want the soldiers, the weapons, the tanks gone from our land.
Why are they still here? Did they forget something? They need to take their weapons and get out.
People don't see the reality of what these bases mean, what these weapons are here for. They are here for war.
As the convoy arrives at its destination and America's military show of strength across Eastern Europe wraps up, those demonstrators behind me are voicing their anger at what they see as an unnecessary military occupation of Europe by American forces. Reporting from Bavaria, I'm Peter Oliver for RT.
It's RT International live from Moscow. The last inhabitants of an illegal refugee camp in the French port city of Calais have packed their bags and are now being moved to a new area. 2,500 people had been at the camp, which is now being bulldozed to the ground. However, the area of wasteland assigned for new accommodation has already been described by aid workers as the worst in Europe. And while any refugees remain at all, so will the tensions between the UK and France about who is responsible for these people.
England is saying it is a French problem, while it's not a French problem only. Calais is not the destination. Calais is not the target. We all know the migrants want to go to England, for the ones who are there, and I wish them good luck for that.
The growing migrant population has become such a headache for France that it now threatens to cancel a deal that allows UK border checks on French territory.
If the border is moved back, of course, no controls will be done in Calais. Everything will be done in Dover. And England will see how it's difficult to manage that situation. The responsibility belongs to everybody in Europe.
Well, the number of migrant deaths across Europe has reached a, quote, worrying level. That is the conclusion from a report published by the London-based Institute of Race Relations looking at some of the worst cases. For example, in the Netherlands, an asylum seeker committed suicide so his kids would be allowed to stay in the country. Also, the death of a Liberian asylum seeker in Germany from pneumonia was put down to ignorance and lack of treatment. And one asylum seeker died in Malta after allegedly being beaten by guards when he tried to escape a detention centre. It's a subject which investigative reporter Liam O'Hare knows very well. He got access to one of Britain's immigration removal centres.
I'm in touch on a regular basis with asylum seekers in Dungavel Detention Centre in Scotland, and they phone me up and they tell me that there are people with very serious health problems that aren't being taken seriously by the UK Home Office. Then they need to treat the most vulnerable people in society with concern. They are trying to wash their hands of human lives, essentially, human lives of people who are moving, who are trying to find a better life, moving to a different country, and that is that these governments aren't prepared to take on responsibility, which is to care for the most vulnerable people that actually come and are seeking a better life.
The probe into the crash of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 has resumed, with Dutch investigators back on site. The cause is still yet to be officially determined, but there's been plenty of media speculation anyway. One recent claim comes from Reuters, which talked to witnesses in a village near the crash scene. Here's an extract from that article.
When interviewed by Reuters, Fedotov, the witness who described the wiggling rocket, at first said on camera that it was fired from territory held by the Ukrainian army. Later, off camera, he said it was launched from a nearby rebel area. Asked why he had originally said the opposite, he said it was because he was afraid of the rebels.
Well, those serious allegations are being disputed by the quoted witness himself. We went to the Lugansk region to hear from him in person. He told our correspondent Ilya Petrenko that the way his words were portrayed by Reuters has made him rather wary of journalists.
Когда за Боинг мы разговаривали, как было, я ему так сказал. А вот это вот без камеры, там всю эту мутату, которую он уже сам придумал, это ложь, потому что я без камеры вообще на эту тему мы не разговаривали. Мы просто разговаривали о жизни. Если статья выходит, как бы хотя бы ознакомил, что, а так без моего согласия, даже не, ну, хотя бы наброски там какие-то дал.
It turned out that the Reuters correspondent did contact Mr. Fedotov after their interview, but not to talk about the article.
Первым, что он спросил, нет ли у меня неприятностей. Я был удивлен этим. От чего у меня могут быть неприятности, если я такого, как сказать, то, что было, я сказал. А когда уже мне позвонили друзья и сказали, что где-то на каком-то канале они видели и сказали, что я сказал на камеру одно, а после камеры сказал противоположное. Вот это я тогда уже понял, почему он у меня так спросил. Это его домыслы, или ему так было выгодно, и я не знаю, какую он цель преследовал.
The official investigation into the MH17 tragedy led by Dutch experts is still ongoing. A conclusive report is expected to be released later this year. The investigators are appealing to the media not to speculate on the downing of MH17 in East Ukraine until the final document is published.
RT contacted Reuters to ask if there was any solid proof that different things were said on and off camera, though we got no response. The article has also drawn criticism from the Russian Foreign Ministry, which accused the report of distorting facts. Now, it's not the first time the media has come to its own conclusions. In the past few months, claims that prosecutors officially confirmed that MH17 was downed by a Russian missile, it went wild in the Western and Ukrainian media. We contacted the Dutch investigators' office for confirmation of this.
I'm not familiar with these reports, but I can say for sure that they are not correct. We are still investigating the plane crash. We are not yet ready to take any conclusion.
It's RT International, a strawberry festival in the U.S. state of Louisiana, now finding itself in the middle of a race row. The event's official poster proved more than a little controversial, featuring faceless African-American children, and it immediately divided opinion, with some saying that represents slavery. Human rights advocates also weighed in. The poster was called offensive and distasteful by America's National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Some critics claim the poster is similar to early 20th century ads which portrayed gross caricatures of African Americans and deeply derogatory words to describe their children. But the condemnation is not universal. On social media, one writer says there's nothing wrong with it. Others believe there's simply no problem. For some, it's art, which is not meant to discriminate, and there's no reason not to love it. We spoke to the designer of the poster.
I was surprised to hear of the negative things regarding the poster. We show the artwork in the gallery in the French Quarter and rarely ever have any type of controversy in the gallery where we've been for many years. So I'm quite shocked at the amount of media attention that my poster has drawn. It was never my intention to offend anyone. People of all races collect my art in the gallery and sold paintings all over the world to people of all races.
We've reported on similar cases in recent months. A French court ordered a baker to remove cakes covered in dark chocolate as they were deemed racist. Another confectionery maker was forced to pull its black mask licorice sweets from sale in Denmark because they evoked the country's colonial past. And in Sweden, changing a few birds' names sparked anger for using words that are deeply offensive to the black community. Radio host Henrik Palmgren told us that political correctness, well, it crossed the line a long time ago.
I think it is a reflection of a larger culture war that really is taking place in the West. People go out of their way to find racism where there is none. But I think that the media have decided to pick up on it, to actually take this cultural war a little bit further. In the extension, this can go however far it needs to go unless we stop it and say something. I mean, this is a reflection where anybody along the way can be offended by anything. And that's the insanity of the situation. The extension to that is a complete shutdown of free speech.
A quick break. We're back in 30 minutes.